She doesn't like say her name or anything. She just says, "All right, what questions do you have?" And I was like,
Welcome to the Magnify Your Major podcast. We are four students trying to navigate our way through college and into the career world.
Finding the right career path can feel like a daunting task. That's why we want to connect you to the tools and resources you'll need along your journey.
None of us have it all figured out, and that's okay. We're able to learn from each other's experiences.
So sit back, relax, and listen into today's episode as we share some great tips and tricks for navigating your first undergrad career fair.
So we want to thank all of you for joining us today for this conversation. We're all very excited to be here to share our experiences with the career fair. But before we jump into that, we just want to introduce ourselves real quick. That way you can kind of get to know us a little bit. And to start off, I'm Emily. I am a senior anthropology major here at UTSA.
Hello, I'm Daniela. I'm currently a junior majoring in criminal justice.
Hi, my name's Dan Rodriguez. I'm also a junior working on a criminal justice major.
Hey guys, my name is Alexia. I'm a senior economics major. This podcast was actually created as a part of the Magnify Your Major course offered through the UTSA Honors College. So in that class, we're basically developing career portfolios, and our assignments center around professional development. So for our first task, we actually had to attend a UTSA virtual career fair. And this was our first time. So we've been where you guys are. So we want to talk to you guys today about our experiences.
And you're probably wondering what a career fair is. A career fair is an event in which employers and recruiters are able to gain new people for their organizations and companies.
And what's really cool about UTSA is that UTSA actually has two different types of career fairs. One that's more broad and general to a variety of different majors, and they have a career fair that's more specific to a particular major, such as like a STEM career fair.
I wanted to ask y'all, what are some specific focuses and ways that a student can work on in preparation to an upcoming career fair?
Yeah, that's so important to consider. And Dan, I would definitely say the best thing to do is to create an elevator pitch starting off. And you can think of an elevator pitch as almost like a 30 second, not 30 minutes, oh my goodness, 30-second trailer of yourself. So you want to take some time to write it out. You're going to share your major, maybe some of the things that you participated in, just so that you have something to say when you're going into the session with the recruiters.
I definitely think that some of the more important aspects of preparing are things that are actually, pretty common when it comes to applying for jobs, or looking for careers. And one of that being like a resume. And that maybe you don't always really consider it, but a resume is a really big and very important tool that you'll use, both within your college career with career fairs and also beyond that. And so we definitely recommend that when preparing for a career fair, go over your resume, look over it, make sure it's up to date, reach out to the Career Center at UTSA if possible, or find other, resources that you can use to help you kind of, structure the resume the way you want it to be, to make sure that it fits, to target who you're looking to meet with, for the recruiter for whatever session you want to attend.
The third thing you can do to prepare for the fair is researching the companies in advance. What's neat about Handshake is that when you sign up for a session, there's usually a brief overview of the company and also links to their website where you can learn more. From this information, you can develop questions relevant to the interview process.
And after doing all that, it's important that you're able to navigate Handshake. Handshake is the platform that these meetings will take place online. So it's important to mess around with the platform a couple nights before your meeting. You don't want to be the day of stressing over how do I turn my camera on or how do I fix my audio? You don't want to have to worry about that the day that you're speaking to the recruiter. Additionally to that, it's important to create and update your LinkedIn account. A LinkedIn account is pretty much like Instagram, but for professional networking. employers will most likely look up your account before the scheduled meeting. So it's important that you have your resume up there and pretty much everything that you want them to know about you.
And if I could just add to what we said about Handshake and getting your profile set up, make sure that the resume that you have on Handshake is up to date. You're also able to upload your transcript or some other documents as well. So that will definitely help you in making sure that you're ready to go for the career fair.
Yeah, because pretty often, oftentimes, like the recruiters can go to your profile, so it's good for them to have like all those important documents like available right there for them to look through.
No, yeah, that's very true. Thank you for adding that. And well, unfortunately, because of COVID, a lot of our meetings and sessions are online only. But let's talk about what are some ways that we as students can prepare and attack these virtual career fairs. A big important one is make sure attend these meetings. When you're attending these meetings, don't feel nervous. These online meetings, it's new to everyone. It's new to the employers. It's new to the students that you're competing against. So don't feel stressed out about that.
Definitely. This pandemic has certainly forced us all to be adaptable and to learn how to use technology in other ways. So the virtual career fair, when you go into the room with the recruiter through the video chat, make sure that you have your camera on, number one. And then you just want to dress professionally, kind of business casual. But hey, be polite. There is somebody on the other side of that screen. So you want to introduce yourself, ask the recruiter how they're doing, and keep those small manners and things like that in mind.
Yeah, and honestly, I mean, even though it was virtual, and I think that going into a virtual environment has like its own little quirks, like little things you have to be aware of, kind of like tying back into how you said, like, make sure your camera works, that your microphone works, and all of that. But like when you really get down to it, a virtual career fair is very similar to being in person, in that it's a conversation that you're having with another person,
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that one of the big components is, being like comfortable with that, and being okay with the fact that you'll be talking to another person, and just navigate it that the way that you would any other type of conversation that might be more like professional or business in nature.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I personally get really shy, and sometimes I get really anxious about talking with employers. So going in, I kind of was overthinking about the entire process, but because it was online, I felt calmer. You didn't have to drive anywhere, and you didn't have to run into traffic or accidentally get lost.
Yeah, I think we can say there is some benefit to being able to not have to worry about like rushing to get anywhere, and just being able to be like in the comfort of your own home.
Yes. And another thing to keep in mind with us being in a virtual environment, and the conveniences of that, hey, you can have some notes on next to you near your laptop, or anything that you want to make sure that you add. You can have your questions written down. And that is definitely, take advantage of what's there with this virtual environment.
That's very true. Yeah, and like some little things that are important to think about too is, since we're at home, don't get too laid back. Make sure you prep a room, make sure your background is nice, you have lighting, and make sure your Wi-Fi is strong. You don't want to have to deal with those problems while you're talking to the recruiter.
Exactly. And when it comes down to Wi-Fi, audio, I know we mentioned this earlier, but through Handshake, it's either through Handshake or the Career Center website, there's this link that you can press, and it does a full system check. So I definitely advise that you do this at least a day or two before, so that the system can ensure that your audio, video, and other features that you need to work with the system that they have set up is functioning properly.
And definitely make sure that your computer is up to date, because we know that Microsoft loves to hit you with updates like the most like like inappropriate time, like whether it's like before class or like an interview or something. So, like make sure that like your computer's ready to go pretty much,
Exactly.
updates are good, audio is checked, the camera's working. So it's definitely good to like think ahead about stuff like that. It might seem small, but it plays a very big role in navigating like the whole virtual environment.
No, yeah. And since we're talking about virtual career fair, does someone want to discuss the difference between a virtual group session versus a one-on-one session?
Yeah, I think you can start us off there because for me, one of the only sessions I was able to attend was actually a group session. Um, and I know that kind of like the general difference between them is that a group session is more of like a basic like Q&A, like you go in there, you get kind of like a general idea of, what they're looking for, what the company's about, and then have like the chance to like ask any questions or anything like that to the recruiter. And I know like the one-on-one is more of like it's just you and the recruiter, it's more personal in that it's, more direct, it's not like the same type of environment as if you were actually going in for like an actual interview. But in regards to like the group session, I know that for me, I went to a group session because, and I think this is okay as well, is that I wasn't really sure what to expect and I wasn't really sure what I was looking for going into it, which is okay. Like you don't have to go into every session, expecting yourself to be like 100% prepared, and also maybe you're just not really certain about the job or the company in particular. So like the group session, like you go in there and you kind of like expect to get like a good overview and maybe ask a few questions, but sometimes, like I think it's good to be prepared for anything, but I think it's good to also have done research ahead of time to prepare questions that you can ask, even if there's like a whole lot of other people in this session. I think don't
Emily,
like.
is it okay if I chime in? So
Oh
like
yeah.
since you're talking about a bit about your experience,
Mhm.
can you please describe like pretty much how your overall experience went and anything that you might want to do different for the next career fair?
Yeah, I think like to be completely honest, it was very unexpected because whenever I went into it, I was expecting there to be like more people, but it ended up just being me, the recruiter, and like one other person, and I was the only person who had my camera on, and I was also the only one who was like actually talking like through the microphone. So it was a little bit awkward for me because I wasn't like expecting that.
So it was basically a one-on-one in a group session.
Yeah. So that's what like tying back to what I was saying about being prepared. Like that can happen. Like you can go into it being like, oh, it'll be fine. It'll just be like a bunch of other people. It should literally just be you and the other person, like regardless. So oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say on that note of what you're saying, I'm sure participating in that way definitely helps you to stand out in the crowd when you're in a group session and no one else has their camera on or is actively participating in that way.
Yeah, and I think that's actually a really good point. Is that I don't want to say that career or like the sessions are like super competitive, but I think that making that impression is important, just like let's say like you're really serious about like the job and you're like, I really like this company and I really want to make a connection with them. I think that being willing to put yourself forward, like have your camera on, participate in the conversation, ask like really good questions and show that like you did research ahead of time. I think that would really make like a good like impression on the recruiter,
Mm-hmm. I actually, when I went to the career fair, I did one group session and then I did 2 one-on-ones. And I definitely will say when you go into the one-on-one, it is a more of a direct connection with that recruiter. So maybe if it's a company or something that you're especially interested in, you would want to do that one-on-one because of course it's going to be more personal, but you just need to make sure that you've done your research on the company because they're going to, a lot of the times when you're in the one-on-one, they have some sort of expectation that you know what the position is, that you've done a little bit of background research, and then that you have questions. Don't come with questions that are super obvious. Take some time to think about it, and also you can use resources from the career fair. not the career fair, I'm sorry, the career center, and on Handshake, they have some questions to kind of guide your thinking. So you may go in there and ask, well, what is the culture of the company like? Or can you describe the day-to-day experience of X position? Things like that you want to think about.
Tying into that, I actually have a question for anyone who wants to chime in. So tying back into what we were talking about in regards to like preparing for the career fair, how would you say that your preparations that we had to navigate like through Magnify Your Major, like the resume, the elevator pitch, would you say that helped you? Like, did you feel more confident going into your sessions, or do you think that maybe it didn't have like a huge impact on like your experience?
I would definitely say that it definitely helped. I liked having questions prepared. I liked going in and knowing what the company was about and having my resume available just in case they wanted it. It also helped maybe following up with them afterwards and really being there and being present in the presentation.
Oh yeah, I agree 100% with Daniela. It does help. It's essential that you have some sort of elevator pitch prepared. Think about the resume piece. You may not directly be giving that employer your resume via email. They're going to see it on your Handshake profile, but it does help to review your resume beforehand so you have some things to talk about, because the discussion could go really well and you want to be able to sell yourself and talk about how the skills that you've gained through your experiences as a student and in the roles that you've played would make you a great applicant for the positions that they have available. So yes, have that elevator pitch, do your research. I will also add that, and depending on the dynamics of your session, like in one of my one-on-ones, he was asking me a lot of questions and I felt as though I was leading the discussion. So if I hadn't been knowledgeable or well researched about what I was talking about, the conversation would have fell flat.
No, yeah, and adding to what y'all are saying, Magnify Your Major literally like saved my life in one of the meetings. So I had a one-on-one session and a group session. So for my one-on-one, I had a meeting with the recruiter from the National Security Agency. And so, I joined the session, and right when I joined, she doesn't like say her name or anything. She just says, "All right, what questions do you have?" And I was like, which is like really like next time, really, it's really important. Next time, I need to have some questions ready. That's where I really goofed up. But the elevator pitch, practicing and being able to make one with the help of Magnify Your Major, that saved me. I told her, oh, like, do you want to hear a little bit about myself, And that's when I was able to give that elevator pitch. But it's important that you practice that elevator pitch so that you're not like reading a script. You're not being robotic when telling them that, You still want to be able, if they ask you a question, about what you just said about yourself, you want to be able to make conversation,
Right.
You don't want to be freeze up and be like, oh, I just rehearsed this. I wrote this and rehearsed it, You want to be able to like back up what you're saying. So there was that. And then for my group session, this one, it was a great, very informative. And the only thing, it was really fast paced. The recruiter was giving us a bunch of links back to back. And what helped me out was to have a Word doc open on the side, because with pen and pencil, like and paper, you can't really write down the whole link. You're going to write it down and the session's going to be over by then. So being able to copy and paste that really helped me out to be on track and keeping up with the session.
And if I could just, go ahead, Emily.
Oh, no, go ahead.
Well, if I could add to what's already been said, I think two things to keep in mind when you're talking to recruiters: confidence and adaptability. You want to have confidence as you're as you're speaking with them, because it shows and it makes a difference and it makes you seem more competent. And that's so important if this is a role that you're really interested, or a company that you really love, and you're trying to establish that network and that connection. Because if it goes well, sometimes you may be able to contact that person later. You can ask if you can connect with them via LinkedIn. So you want to have that confidence and then be adaptable. And that also really connects to this idea of the elevator pitch, because you need to be able to adjust your elevator pitch according to who you're talking to. If you're talking to, your elevator pitch may not be the same if you're talking to the National Security Council versus if you're talking to Texas Parks and Wildlife. You need to be able to make those adjustments so that you can really display how your experience fits into what that employer is looking for.
That's very true. And adding to Alexia's, what she's saying, be confident. That's really important. And also don't forget, be yourself. These recruiters and employers, they talk to so many students that day. There's so many meetings going on that you're able to show your uniqueness and sell yourself, just show what's awesome about you. Everybody's different. Everybody has their great things that they can do, and show it, have fun with it.
Yeah, I think that honestly, in the end, I think it's safe to say that like coming prepared, it can't hurt you. It can only benefit you in the end. Like even if you feel like you come over prepared, and maybe that like you didn't actually get to use your elevator pitch, or you didn't really get to ask all the questions you wanted to. I think that like given that these sessions can go in like a variety of different directions, like with Dan, where like they just jumped like right into it, and then she was like, all right, tell me about yourself, or like ask questions. Like, it's okay, like to be prepared. And I think that doing so, like I said, it can only benefit you in the long run. So like, even if you don't get to use any of the tools that you prepared, it only serves you into the future.
Oh, definitely. I think that it's always better to be over prepared than under prepared, because you have all these tools, all these resources that are so good to take advantage of. And I think that point that you've just made, Emily, leads into something else that we should, which is expectations versus reality. Was the career fair what you thought it was going to be, or different? And if so, how?
Yeah, I think it's definitely an interesting topic, given that like, I think I'm pretty sure for most of us, this is like our first career fair, right? Like I don't think anyone else has gone to one. So I think it's a fun thing to be like, yeah, my first career fair was virtual. So it's sort of like, we don't really have like anything else to like compare it to. Personally, I expected it to be kind of like a Zoom class, like we like log in and like we have somebody who talks and present some information, and like we ask some questions, I think that was kind of like my main thought going into it. And then like, of course, like I go and I find out that like the like handshake and like a career center, they have their own platform for like the whole like video and all of that. Like I literally thought it was through Zoom. I was like preparing myself. I'm like, another Zoom session. Like I can do this. It was not Zoom. So like it's stuff like that like it's small, but like it's never really like what you expect it to be. Like I don't know about any of you, what were your thoughts on like going into it?
For me it was pretty unexpected, honestly. That one-on-one session, I mean, it was cool. Like it's an experience that I'm not gonna forget, And it was interesting joining in, and the recruiter was just like, all right, what questions do you have? But like being able to just like, like don't stress about it. I was able to actually, I'm not sure if I told y'all about this, but we because I was born in Chicago, moved to San Antonio when I was like 4, and Spanish was like my first language, So growing up, it was a little difficult talking to the other kids and making friends. So I was telling her about that, how team sports, playing soccer, playing football, I was able to make friends like that, build relationships. And I was telling her about that, and she started telling me about that too. She came from, it was Japan, and she was telling me that moving over here during high school, it was around her high school years, that she was also having trouble with that. But being able to relate in that way, it was pretty cool.
Yeah, that is awesome that you guys were able to find that connection or to find that link, in the middle of a virtual career fair session. You wouldn't think that that would come up.
No, yeah. And then I didn't tell you about this, but we also talked about the mailman, but that was like a super random, because she was like looking away and she was like, "Oh, my bad, my bad. I'm looking, the mailman's dropping something off." And that week I had ordered a paintball mask. So I was like, "Oh, I'm waiting on the mailman too,"
Yeah.
It was kind of
Wow.
funny.
So you
And
guys are able
definitely,
to, oh, I'm sorry, Emily, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, like, definitely be prepared for anything because, like, the
Mhm.
conversations can go anywhere.
Exactly. And there's something that you guys should definitely keep in mind, which is almost, I like to call it a mirroring technique, right? So whoever you're talking to, you want to mirror your tone, your approach to talking with them based on how they are. So if you're with some talking with the recruiter and they seem a lot more serious, then maybe you kind of keep a more serious and formal tone. If there's somebody who is a lot more laid back, you can kind of adjust and be laid back, not overly laid back. We're keeping it professional here. But you want to be able to adapt in that way where you're picking up on how this person is responding and what they're like. If I could just speak on my own experience, I mean, I had 2 one-on-one sessions. So I like to call my first one-on-one session the new school, because new school as in, more modern. The recruiter was super young, like closer to our age probably. It was super laid back. I didn't even share my elevator pitch at all because she didn't really ask. If anything, at the end, she was like, "Do you have any questions?" So I was able to then ask the questions that I had. My second one-on-one session, I like to call that one the old school, because the person who I was talking with, he was a little bit older, so his approach was he wanted to know what I knew about the role. He wanted to know how my major and how my classes and skills would be able to apply to that role. So he literally had a lot of tough questions, and honestly, I would have crumbled in that session had I not been prepared, because his questions were honestly kind of difficult. But it went well overall because I had done that legwork from the beginning.
You definitely had like a good like duality there,
Yeah.
like a good like representation of like the experience to me that's like more like that versus something that's more like by the book, like the type of traditional like experience you'd expect, from like the old stories you'd hear from like your parents, about like what their experience is like. So definitely something that's like not what you would normally like be like expecting or prepared for.
Yeah, and I'm glad you mentioned by the book, because that's another point too in your mindset and thinking about preparing for the career fair. It doesn't have to be so by the book. Like when you're sharing your elevator pitch, you're adjusting it, because you don't want to get into the session and then just find yourself uh, reciting off of your resume. I mean, imagine going to a party or going to an event and you meet somebody and you're like, "Hi, what's your name?" And then they start going through their resume and their LinkedIn, right?
Yeah.
You're going to start kind of slowly backing away or finding somebody else to talk to. So keep it very conversational, be comfortable, keep it 100% natural. But you definitely want to be able to sell yourself at the same time.
Yeah, and kind of tying into all of that, considering like all of your experiences with the career fair and like the preparations beforehand and actually going into it, what would you say are things that maybe you wish you would have done differently, or maybe things that like you didn't think about before that you realize maybe you should consider next time?
That's a good question. I wish I would have developed some clear goals at the very beginning. And I recommend that to all of you listeners. Before you go to the career fair, think about, what are you trying to get out of this career fair? Is it just practice? And I think that for me, because there were employers there that I was interested in, but maybe not as interested in. For me, this was more about getting that good practice, getting comfortable with talking to recruiters in one-on-one sessions. So develop those goals so that you can target your focus during the career fair. And then also, I just wish I would have started coming to these earlier on in my college career. I am a senior, and this is my first career fair. So I think had I started coming as a sophomore, I might have found a connection that could have helped me get an internship or something. So start earlier on. It's never too soon. If you're a freshman, start going to the career fair. It's not going to hurt you.
I would agree with Alexia. I definitely wish I would have started going to events a lot sooner in my educational career. I feel like a career fair is just one of those things where you have to attend to kind of figure out how the process is. And I feel like it's just one of those things that also prepares you for other things in life, like interviews and maybe meeting more so with other employers and really networking out there.
No, yeah, definitely. I agree with both of y'all because, like, I mean, eventually the job that you're going to have a job that you really, really, really want, and you're going to have to interview for it no matter what. You're going to have to talk to someone to get into it. So these career fairs, they help you network. And I mean, just getting the experience, that's already a win. Just learning how these meetings are going to go, how these meetings can go, the more you do, the more you know about them, the better, the more experiences. It's just so much, they're so helpful. We really recommend going to them.
Yeah, it's just I think that the career fair is maybe like a good tool for kind of pushing yourself out of your comfort zone a little bit, especially getting more comfortable with attending like one-on-one sessions. I know for me, like I'm pretty shy, so I was a little nervous thinking about one-on-one sessions. I was like, I don't know if I'm like mentally ready for that. But I think that it's still a good thing to do, and I know for sure that like next time I have any opportunity to do a career fair of any sort, I would want to do a one-on-one session, like even just for the experience of doing it, because it does kind of prepare you into like what Dan was saying about like interviews, like, because you'll have to do like one-on-one interviews for, a variety of different, job options or opportunities that you have. So I think that I know that for maybe a lot of people, it could be like a little uncomfortable, or maybe you're a little nervous about it. I think that pushing yourself to at least attend like 1 or 2 sessions is a good first step. In the end, like you'll only gain experience from it. You can't lose anything.
Exactly. That's such a good point. You have absolutely nothing to lose by going to the career fair, going a one-on-one session, even if you're nervous. I was nervous about attending my one-on-one sessions, and I remember just in the few minutes before they started kind of having butterflies in my stomach about it, and then getting in there and realizing that it's not that bad. You're literally just talking to people. So think about it in that way. And another thing that I would add that I didn't necessarily think about before is if you are talking to a recruiter for a company, or the company is in an industry that is maybe not so closely related to your major, just think about your goals of talking to that recruiter. And you're also going to want to be able to articulate how your skills as whatever your major is can be transferable to this industry, which has seemingly nothing to do with your major. I mean, for instance, I'm an economics major, and I talked to a recruiter for a position which is more often filled by marketing and accounting majors. And he did want to know, okay, what would you have to bring to this position? So I had to be able to explain that. So keep that in mind as you're preparing and as you're going into these sessions.
It's also okay to kind of like want to, to expand like your horizon a little bit, maybe attend sessions that aren't very like, traditional to your major, just to see what other options are there. Because you might be surprised at what you can find. Maybe you'll find something that you never really thought about as an option before. And, it could help you get like a, like a fit into the right direction for you. But, kind of to send us off to the ending, aspect of our conversation, overall, like talking, as a college student to other college students, what kind of takeaways would you offer to, the people who are listening right now, overall about what to expect or prepare for the career fair?
you're not alone. And by all means, you do not have to sign up for this class to prepare for a career fair. What is great about UTSA is that they do have tools readily available on the Career Center website. And these tools can help you with your resume and other things such as interviews or networking.
Just utilize those resources. You guys, there's a lot of resources that are right at our fingertips, whether the career fair, whether it's courses offered through UTSA, whether it's other students. Hey, we're resources for each other. You can reach out to upperclassmen, or if you're an upperclassman with some experience, you can try to help those underclassmen who are just trying to learn the ropes. You know, give yourself some grace. You go to this career fair, you may not be able to secure an internship or a position, but look at it as a valuable professional development and learning opportunity that you have absolutely nothing to lose and everything to gain from.
I think it's also important for you to be able to reach out to people who are in the same position as you. And UTSA has a lot of good programs for peer mentors or peer coaches. So if you ever want to talk to somebody on a peer-to-peer basis, the Honors College has, students you can talk to. You have your academic counselors or your advisors. You have the Career Center. So there's a whole variety of resources out there for you to help you transition into preparing for the career fair, and also maybe being more comfortable and helping to alleviate any type of anxiety or concerns you might have about it. Yeah, does anyone else have any final thoughts they would like to share?
Have fun. Think of it as a fun learning experience and be yourself.
I think that's a good place to end our discussion. I think that we hit a lot of really important aspects and points, regarding the whole aspect and concept of a career fair, and what it's like to attend it and what the expectations can be and how to prepare for it. We want to thank all of you for tuning into this episode of the Magnify Your Major podcast. We hope that you're able to leave this conversation feeling more confident, just knowing that there's a lot of resources out there available to you to be able to access. And that this helps you to be able to, ace the career fair that you go to. In the end, just remember, be prepared, be confident, and be yourself. I think that's the most important aspects that you can take into going into any circumstance or situation.